And so I think uh, I guess one thing I could show you guys, let's see, develop, um, is that so we have this wallet, sign in with Google, and
Tank,
then
are we doing this along with you? Are we all gonna
no,
do the same steps, or we're just watching you go through it?
You're just watching me go through it, and I highly encourage everybody to create a project. But what I'm showing is this the reason the treasury I'm going to create is a treasury that in this wallet system, when people add credit cards and then add funds and then convert those funds to Ethereum, we will have the opportunity to charge fees for this. So what I've been thinking about is we should dump those fees into Juicebox Treasury, which we can figure out, the proceeds of like what it funds or expenses or whatnot. So unless somebody has a project that they want me to configure for them, and then I can send them something, or so that's one idea, to do a payment on-ramp fees treasury. Of course, you can change all the parameters here. And another thing we can do is there's another project, this Banniversing, where you can come here and you can design, a banana with different outfits. Let's see, and then when you buy this, then it sends the funds to a treasury. So we can create that as well. So
Tank, from the beginning, somebody stumbles in, want to make a project. This is the page they're on, right? This is the design your project page.
Yeah. So this page, it tries to tell you, here's the thing to do. You can explore projects. You can launch projects. Here's the top projects. These are V2. If you go to Juicebox.money, they show the highest funded projects, which is good in terms of, I think this accomplishes, showing off like how much money was made. This promotes dead projects. And then this is like a stream of payment. When projects are kicking off, what's cool about this protocol is that, let's see, when people are contributing, what happens is that this activity feed turns into like a huge stream of like, let's see, holdings, a huge stream of like people signaling like how cool they are by like random stuff that they're posting. So the first chunk of stream here is people converting their tokens to ETH, redeeming. So I don't have a very good example right now to show you of people flexing. But when you hear there's a term, people flex when contributions are kind of kicking off. So yeah, let's go to Peace. Peace probably has some stuff here. So yeah, you see these pictures. Obviously, that's me. And this is a nice social feature of the thing. So let's go into. So this is a high level of the projects. These are the trending projects. There's an algorithm that computes like contributions per person, per individual on a 7-day rolling basis. And this is some kind of terminology, or I'm sorry, high level stuff. Obviously, movement is going to be much different. I think Felix Zander has been working on some infographics. I think infographics would go a long way. And I also think categorizing projects would be a good thing too. Trending projects is only one dimension, but it'd be nice to see all projects. Right now, the dimensions in terms of how projects are organized is very flat. And I think being able to differentiate between different types of categories of projects.
So for movement, that would be like maybe things that have to do with the environment versus social change.
No,
I mean,
Yeah. So the answer is I don't know exactly. We do have some prototypes. Um, the the basically there's the hard way, which is create categories and then hope that people assign assign their categories correctly. Easier way would be to look at the words that projects are using, and then discerning that. I think that's probably a better way to do it. But that is something, and this goes along the lines of like the work to be done in terms of scoring a project. Before we get into a project, actually, let's just do the project that my wife and I do, and we do anything is we have these cats, and so I'm the project owner. As a project owner, I have this cog. In other places, when you go to other projects where I'm not the owner, you only get these tools. All the buttons that you see here are called are trustless, which means that when the protocol is ready to disperse funds, a human action to disperse the funds needs to happen. But the project owner doesn't need to, because the contract knows who gives money, who takes money. It doesn't matter who pays the gas to start that process off. So all these buttons here are it's kind of weird. Sometimes, and people who don't understand this will create a project, raise money, say, hey, we're going to raise $1 million and we're going to go do X, Y, and Z. And then they don't think about where their project owner wallet is. And then someone comes along and pushes distribute funds. And then now they can't show that they have a bunch of money in their wallet. So when you create a project, you give a description, you give a URL, Twitter and Discord, a graphic, and a name. The protocol does not know what any of these things are. The protocol only understands this handle piece. So this stuff is stored completely off chain. The protocol has no idea what these are. So you could have like cocaine to homeless people, and there's no way. And there's no way to get this information on chain either. This is the volume of all money that goes into the project in the history of time. You can mouse over any of these. This is what's in Juicebox right now. This is what's in the owner's wallet. This wallet is a multi-sig. And then this is a pretty graph of what happened. That's self-explanatory. Peace is an issued token. So prior to this, if we just go to any other project, Django's laboratory, Django has not deployed a token. If you haven't, we'll do this when we create a project. When you go to manage, there'll be something in here that says deploy your token. It will then create an address of your token. And then if you go to this on chain, you'll see your token here. So by default, people who contribute to projects, the tokens that are emitted from this are staked. They don't get, in fact, you have that option. You can click this box to say, I want to receive it. So we're just going to go left to right. So this is a total supply of tokens. This is the address. This is their holders, so you can airdrop people. There's 40 people who've contributed. And then since I'm logged in and I go manage token, I can burn the peace tokens that I have in order to have access to overflow. This project has no overflow. I will explain what overflow is soon enough. And then funding cycles. This is how you, these exclamation parts are risks. There's, they're basically flags. They're not very good flags, but project that's configured to have no target. So everything in Juicebox is around a funding cycle. And a funding cycle communicates that when money goes in here, it will not leave in there's a certain duration, and then there's a distribution limit. So this treasury is saying every 2 weeks I will only take out 4 ETH, and there's no discount. There's 100% redemption, and then you get 1 million. So this treasury, if I put in, so I can put in one ETH. You don't control this. The protocol controls this. We will put this up, and then there's a risk. It says that this is not an investment. This is 1 ETH. I get 1 million tokens, and there's nothing reserved. These are very important points. And then Django Bango, and then I will upload a cat. This is very sad. Who's that? Oh, okay, so we do it here. So let's do 0.5. Yogurt, understand, customized payment. Okay. What the fuck are you doing? Let's see. Actually, before I do that, let's look at the configuration again. Configuration is 14 days. And then if you go up here, it's been distributed. There's 27 ETH in treasury. There's no discount rate. There's 100% redemption and 1 million per token. Okay, so this is the way this is configured. Is for any money I put in, that money comes back out. So I paste 6. So and obviously that information needs to be kind of communicated easier. So let's just go continue here. So the reason why there's no why is there when you have a reconfiguration strategy, this means that Django can come in here and change the configuration at any time. There's no delay. Otherwise, this is why it has a flag here. Other flags are if there's no distribution limit, if it can just receive infinite amounts of money, and if there's no duration. Because what this protocol wants is that it wants to know that there's a payouts here at every 2 weeks, like payroll, and the token reserved means that by default all projects issue 1 million tokens, but what you can do is you can say I want to keep half those tokens, and I want to assign those tokens to me or something. So when I contribute 1 ETH, and if I have 50% reserved, then I only get 500,000. The rest of the reserve tokens accumulates down here. Normally, you attach it to a human, or a bunch of people, and it's effectively a way to manage options or manage dilution. So this reserve rate is 50%. Every time you contribute here, you get these 350,000 tokens, but these people get the other half, and then they split it up this way. So what this means is that you can never buy enough tokens. You can't contribute $1 million and have control. And this is another flag too. I know of a pretty stupidly configured project. Or is anyone on the call from? Well, I mean, I've told them that it was pretty not very slight. I've told these people that their project is unfriendly or oddly configured. So cycles define how your cycles work. most projects who are just raising money infinite will have no payout, which is bad. You should at least have the project owner or like a small group of people who are doing the website, and you should define how much they get paid, 2 ETH, 3 ETH, and then you should lock it in, and then you should lock in a configuration strategy, which I'll show you what they are later. Redemption rate is, it means that the tokens that I get from here, so I contributed 0.5 ETH and I got 1 million tokens, and I 0.5 ETH and I got 500,000 tokens now. And come back here and I can redeem all of it, and I get slightly less, and that is because it accounts for the 4 ETH that is trying to accumulate, but it has overflow. So so you can configure this in a way where you get 100% back out. And I would have actually expected that I get all of it back out. And maybe it's because I'm tired or something. But so now the tokens that I have are worth this amount. I only get this amount redeeming against because he has overflow. So the protocol will always protect your funding cycles. So if you need 4 ETH a week, and you only, if you start off at 0 at the beginning of the week and you have nothing in your treasury, but if you have something in your treasury and you have overflow, then users who want to redeem, and redeem is also sometimes they call it a discount rate, or sometimes they call it bonding curve rate. So the reserve tokens means how many of the tokens that are emitted from the system are split with insiders. So just think of it as options. Funding cycle is your payroll. Discount rate is a mechanism which makes it cheaper for people to acquire the same amount of tokens. And it is, in fact, the only way to make a profit on tokens, outside of like what affected the 0.38 ETH coming back to me from contributing. And like I said, I think it's because of it's reserving 0.4 or 4 ETH for the next funding cycle. Obviously, all this shit is just like super complicated for people to understand. And the problem is that Felix says, I want to do a really easy way to communicate it. And then the devs go, well, we want to make it transparent, because if they don't know about these features, they're going to make a mistake. Now, that's not to say that we can't make user interfaces that if you want to do if you want to do a trust, if you want to do a loan, if you want to do a fundraise, it's not to say that we can't have pre-configured workflows to do that.
Yeah, and just to hop in, first of all, to hop in there, I am correct in that argument, but neither here nor there.
No, you're
definitely not. I'm totally correct, but the fine line is, these are very important decisions, and people shouldn't be breezing through them. And when you look at some competitors, they do let people breeze through them. And so the fine line is like, how do you get it to sink into people how important the decisions are without giving them, like an encyclopedia of terms to understand, particularly if they don't care about, like their passion could be whatever. Django's Laboratory's passion is probably not accounting. And so, having him sit down and learn all this accounting stuff, it's a big ask. And so that's really where infographics come in, explainer videos, like with Tank, I know the pre-configured kind of things, like you just click nonprofit and it already more or less approximates what you'll likely need, so that you won't have to just do it all from scratch, I think is really important. And that's somewhere when we build this out for Move will have all these tools, right? So when we build this out for Move, we really should do it with that in mind.
Yeah, I mean, the caveat is that I don't disagree that we should have workflows for particular types of people, and we can kind of go through those. But I don't disagree. Our intention is I value having consistency. So whether or not this is right or wrong, I think we would be doing a disservice to online DAO communities if we dramatically restructured this. First off, I think this page is it's dense, it's complicated as fuck, but it's a very good laid out tool, and I worship
I
the
agree.
ground
Yeah,
that
it's good. No, 100%. I mean, I
it,
agree
it
with you there.
but there's this kind of comment that like whenever you have a presentation with numbers in it, you lose half your audience, and every subsequent number reference, you lose half your audience. And this is definitely like the poster child for that. That said, there are slices of how this could look that make it easier for people to kind of grok. So going down here, we have the reserve list. We have a design for having vesting under here. So manage token. If you're a project owner, you can deploy your token. You saw me redeem the token. And let's see. Let's go back. And then on this side, you have the contribution, and then you have like how much you're going to get. Other projects, what's a good project? I guess Juicebox. Oh no, mine. I should do it. Well, that's disappointing. I know why. Because we haven't implemented it yet. Juicebox money. And then explore projects. So if your token is in a liquidity pool, you could see, okay, I can contribute to this project and get 451 tokens, or I could go to SushiSwap and get 450 tokens. So last night, a very good use of $100 was to create this liquidity pool for Meow. This is so. What is this doing? This is interesting. The way this protocol works is that it has an incentive mechanism for you to contribute to this project because it has a funding cycle in which it has distributions and payouts that it needs to fulfill. In this case, I've locked payouts until I guess they're unlocked now, and then the tokens are locked till next month. This is to these kinds of settings instill more confidence because I can't do a rug. Because I'm the project owner in managing redeem, claim, because everything is by default staked, you have to do a separate function to claim. And then as a project owner, I can deploy an address that makes, so because this is a smart contract, because this is an app, it'd be nice if you could just send ETH to an address. And so that's what this does. You deploy this. It doesn't show you what that address is and that I did it before. But the idea is that if you send money to ETH, juicebox.meowdao.eth, it finds the address. And now I can pay to this address. So that's nice, having a QR code or something that someone can pay directly to. You can also, claim, but then I'm not going to take it in my wallet. I'll send it to somebody else. You can also contribute without and bypass the token distribution. Owner tools, you can migrate this. This was the first project on V2, and then you can also archive the project. And then ownership. When you create a project, in your wallet is an NFT, and that NFT tells the protocol that you own this. Juicebox. So this uneventful. This obviously we'll make prettier, but that by owning that NFT. So when multi-sigs operate a treasury, what is happening is that this NFT is being sent to a Gnosis safe, and then they're logging in to this app. And I think Gnosis, let's see, I think if you go to setting apps, Juicebox is now a default app in Gnosis, which is kind of cool. Here you can operate on this treasury, and it'll register how you're logged in. Okay, so projects emit the NFT. NFT owners control the project. we are doing something different there as well, where we're going to have delegation tools. So some things have to be configured through the project. Other things, the project owner can then add a user with a role, and then that user can then design the landing page, issue a token, or issue an NFT. And that's kind of vital. So let's see if there's anything else. Before we create a project, is there any questions I can answer about what I just went through or repeat? Okay. So as a project owner, I have this cog, and this cog brings up this page called Project Reconfiguration. Project Reconfiguration is effectively at Juicebox.money. It's effectively the same thing as when you go through this launching your project, except it lets you update these parameters. The key part is the parameters of your funding cycle and your tokens, because this is what determines how much ETH is stored in your treasury, how many tokens are being minted and issued. The things up here are on IPFS, so you don't actually. You have to update the smart contract with a pointer to where that file is. Project Handles is a new feature in V2 where you can define ENS. So you can just set, I want meow juicebox.eth. I can set an ENS name, and then I have to set a record. You can make this a little easier because this is not easy, and that's it. So reconfiguration. We're going to do the same thing when we create a project, but you basically define what your funding cycles look like, how many days when you need to reach your payout. Your payout here is either a fixed amount or a percentage. And then if it's a fixed amount, it will give you a pop-up box to say how much money do you want to limit your distribution amount. And then you have your token, which is what your mint rate is, what's your reserved, who to distribute tokens to. This does a computation of like what the contributor gets, what the reserve rate gets, and then the discount. And the discount is applied, and then it gets smaller every funding cycle. And then redemption rate, the amount of money for every 1 ETH contributed and the tokens received, less the reserved rate of money that you get back from the protocol. And like I mistakenly thought that a project configuration with 100% redemption, with 0 reserved and a 0 discount rate would have returned it equally. So I will follow up on that. And then rules is where you put in, I want to pause payments and not take any more money. I want to allow minting arbitrary tokens to arbitrary addresses. Dilution. This one I don't know, and they popped in. They added, and this is another annoying thing that they do. They just add and remove things randomly. Strategy is when you can configure stuff. So if you're about to change a strategy, the protocol allows people 3 days. So what happens is that 3 days before this funding cycle ends, users can come here and know that they can redeem or do whatever they need to do before the funding cycle changes. And it enforces that this reconfiguration, if you do no strategy, I can just pull all the money and then change the funding cycle to be whatever. And it's just nothing that's enforced. This is also where we're adding new tools for Juicebox to do it's what they call extensions, and it's currently what's in test. So if we launch a project, we can create an NFT reward. So this is an incentive. So if I go, I want any contributions 2.5 ETH and above, you get this cat named Kitty Cat. Um, and then, so here's this tier, and then now you have this tier. And then, so now you can just make a bigger tier, 0.5. And it's this one. And so, so now you have this, and you save it. When you save it, now when you go to your UI for contributions, you have, oh, I can click this. It will automatically set the amount to contribute, and I give you information about it. And then when I contribute this amount of money, it will issue me tokens, and it'll mint an NFT for me. So this was obviously the first feature I worked on when I came here was like, how do you have continuous funding to projects? And this is anything around NFTs is kind of obvious.
Thank you. Mind if I jump in for 1 sec?
Yeah.
Just give a quick, like, maybe real life use case of when you might use that is like if you had, let's just say, like a DAO that was hosting events, you could put each of one of those NFTs could represent like a tier of what you can do at that event. Like you could have a VIP if you contribute more than 10 ETH or something like that.
Memberships are obvious. Yeah, obviously memberships. So City DAO, what did they do that was like special? Like effectively nothing, right? There's like, here's a founder, here's a citizen, here's whatever, and you buy it for fixed amounts of money. Here it is, right? So like citizenship, it's 3 NFTs at these tiers. But your voting right here, it's either you have the NFT or not. By having the tiers, not only do you have the opportunity to configure high resolution token or high resolution votes, but you also can give a reward, which could be a membership because you met that threshold. So memberships, you can also do fixed amount. Like there's 100 of these NFTs. The first people who contribute up to 3. You can do loans. If you buy 0.25 to 0.5, I'll pay you back 5% interest here and 10% interest at the higher rate. And I will pay 0.5 tier first before I do this. So, I mean, there's a lot of mechanics that you can do. Now that you're emitting a token configured on a tier with tokens at the same time. You can see artists doing a collection. You can configure a new one every funding cycle. So you could see an artist doing a finite collection dropped every month, and then having tiers which have their own collection volumes every month. And then with the NFT, you also get voting, which also gives you redemption. So this is pretty powerful. And then we can kind of go bring the idea a lot further, and go into like, okay, now you can just go full-fledged create NFT collections that you associate, and then when these are minted, when you have like a mint page, then all the funds get routed to your treasury. So, and you can do carbon credits with this, like if you buy this carbon credit collection, but I mean, that's all people do, right? On Ethereum is like do DeFi and buy NFTs and create DAOs. So anyway, so let's go back to create. So does anyone have questions about, because we're going to create something now, so you can see. Okay.
One thing I would say, maybe I mean, I don't know if you guys open this Stacker, if you're open to this, but it might be nice to see somebody like who hasn't done this before, like Stacker, trying to create, and
Sure.
Tank, you
Yeah.
guide him. I think that would probably be really instructive. Stacker, are you willing to take that on, or maybe Maiko? I don't know.
So it sounds like we're using multiple different instances of this, so it might be more, especially for time, might be more helpful with Tank just runs through it.
I would say though, but the idea is somebody should be able to do this in less than an hour, right? I mean, we have about an hour left. Reasonably, somebody can do this well in less than an hour, or what? What do you think?
I mean, I think I'd like to do. So the idea of having like these different types of entities or projects is I'd like to have like a downloadable juice file that you can come here and then like upload, and then it'll configure a bunch of stuff. Obviously, doing it for NFTs would be like super useful. I have no problem with just creating anything. I mean, the thing I think kind of you have to get over pretty quickly is like I know doing something in crypto is kind of scary, like pushing the wrong button and approving the wrong thing, and then having like, all your NFTs stolen. I don't know, it's upsetting, or I hope, knock on wood. But I understand where Felix is coming from, is that like, this is kind of daunting. Like most people who come here go here, drop in, contribute, and then upload like a dick pic or something, and move on with life. And then maybe they kind of get super watching this feed happen, which happens too. That's another thing, like having that feed update on Twitter. But I'm happy to create a project.
Yeah, well, so let's do that then. Maybe Tank, just start to finish, as if you put your noob hat on, and you're running through this project creation and kind of talking us through it. That would be awesome.
Yeah. This was kind of like the not so. Okay, this guy made it more reasonable now. He brought it down to 50%. But so this project owner, this is Slice, Jacopo, and then he brought down his ownership. We can just go to funding cycles history. And if we go to the first one, he had reserve. He had issued himself like 70% ongoing, and it was just kind of like, this might be V2 too. No, V1. So he had it configured in such a way where it was just like odd. But anyway, so let's do this. So Juicebox money launch project, and let's see. I need to get the most important parts. Let's see. Okay. So we're gonna call this like onboarding. We need some cuter name. Why don't we just do Bannyverse? Bannyverse. No, actually, who has an idea? I don't want it. I could do a Tankbottoms. How about this? I'll just do a Tankbottoms. .xyz or I'll just do a treasury.
This would be a fashion company, Tank.
I think, to the degree that Anne Wintour controls fashion, maybe I have yet to see what a good tank bottom looks like.
So that we're making a project to create the first good tank bottom.
Oh, yeah, we have to come up with something. I mean, no one will contribute to it, so like, it'd be fine. Let's see, 500. Save, upload. Oh, I'm in the wrong. Okay. And then project links. Site. Okay.
So Tank, what is this fake project potentially going to do?
Well, I can change it. I can change it anytime to anything else. But what I'll do is I will have like payments go to this instead of going to my externally owned address. So I can just kind of and I can do a split. So like if I want to like I don't know, but I'm making a project that has words that I know how to type quickly and move on. So funding cycles. We'll do funding cycles every week, and then payout. We'll do percentage. Yeah, we'll do Tankbottoms XYZ or no, the ETH, and then 50. And then see, I'm the owner, so like it's just gonna I can do Tankbottoms ETH, and then I can just fix it at like 5 ETH per week. Save, and then tokens. So I can so in order for people, if I have any governance, in order for people not to like vote me out of my own DAO, I should at least do 50%. And then token allocator, tank.
Just to be clear, that 50% means half of all tokens ever made go back to Tank. So he always has majority vote power, right? Is that, or go back to the project?
Yeah, go back to the project or project owner. But yeah, effectively just makes it so that like it's anti-dilution. That's what this is. So when I'm asking for you guys to have like a when you talk to project people, so turn off discount rate and then redemption rate, keep it 100%. So when people talk to you about projects they want to do, this is why payouts, who do they want to pay and how often do they want to pay them? What's their minimal burn rate? So like the same thing that you would do, like if you had a business plan to go ask someone for $10,000, like that's the minimum requirement here is to understand this. The problem, which I appreciate, is that most people who are asking for $10,000 don't really understand anything having to do with tokens whatsoever. But everybody loves, I mean, if tokenizing communities is a tagline, then some base level of like configuration of a project. And I think we can make this, I know we can make it easy if they provide you with a spreadsheet of here's the people I want to hire over time, but here's my initial set of people, and here's how much I have to pay them, which is, and it's in their interest to just put, who they need to pay, and if they don't make enough money in that pay cycle, the project doesn't implode and then delete itself. It just won't pay out to ETH to those people because there's not enough ETH to pay them. which is fine. There's no overflow at all. And then the tokens, and the tokens is utility participation. And so all they have to do is describe like what kind of tokens, what kind of governance do you want with your internal people? Like, how do you want to allocate tokens internally? So if the person who's running the project says, I want to listen to the community and I don't want to have a say, I'm just going to govern, then they can do zero reserve tokens. If they say like, oh, I have a say, this is my idea, and I want to kind of drive it this way, then they can change it to something else. So the doing a operation a P&L and a cap table is and it doesn't have to be like fancy words. It could just be like who you want to pay at what rate and what kind of voting control would you like. Discount rate is a mechanism which is giving a discount. So if you get a bunch of overflow, you're effectively letting go of tokens cheaper than it costs to acquire them. And so like this, if your redemption rate's 100%, so you can redeem 100% of your tokens against your overflow, then whatever discount rate is kind of the margin in which they're going to make. Once we figure out like what that 0.3 was about, or 0.12. So redemption to 100%, discount rate is 0, reserve tokens 50%. And then rules. I don't want to pause payments because I want people to pay. I don't want to do that. And then I'll do a 3-day delay. Save that. And then review. Here's all my settings. And then deploy it. It pops up. It's $70 to deploy. And there it is. So, I mean, from a perspective of like having a transparent treasury that issues tokens, I can't even think of like a way for people to deploy a token contract for $70 and then have a mechanism in which to distribute those tokens. So this is actually useful. And this is where I think when we have the tool built up, I can see a lot more of these. Like you first get to the project and you go, here's these things to do. And then maybe bubbles around different components, giving you a tour of stuff. I definitely see that. And I wish off the top of my head, I knew of like, JavaScript, JavaScript help, SDK. There's something. But at any rate, so set project handle. So this lets me set a handle. So I can do juicebox.tankbottoms. Accounts, Tankbottoms, subdomains. Okay, yeah. So we do Juicebox at Tankbottoms. So let's see if this works. $13. That's obnoxiously way more expensive than it does if I do it directly. And then this. If I set this, it looks like it'll do it for me. Let's see. So I mean, this is nice. We added a timer that tells you what's going on. It could be nicer if it was like in the middle or something. Yeah, there could be like nice, tasteful graphics that are plopped around in different places. But it's also a moving target in terms of like all these kind of tools. I guess another obvious. Okay, so it finished, and then doesn't show anything here. So it's kind of like, okay, so it set that. Okay, so it doesn't refresh this page. And then it doesn't like a set record. Okay. And then if I go into the tool online, so let's see, set ENS name. So it thinks, oh, oops. So it gave me a Juicebox name. Did I thought I wrote that the reverse, right? I wrote Juicebox at Tankbottoms. Didn't I? Bueller? Bueller?
I don't remember. I thought you just did tankbottoms.eth.
I'm positive that, because I mean so I have not had that work successfully. Let's see, so domain, episode domain. So juicebox.tankbottoms.bottoms.eth. I mean, it could Juicebox. It could give me Juicebox, which would be, that's actually not the worst idea. I guess I can check that out. So we get the ENS, and then I go to app, juicebox.eth. Actually, I don't. Do they have juicebox.eth subdomains? No. So that totally just like fucked the pooch. That's interesting. Okay, well, this is a waste of time. And then issue tokens. So I can issue the tank token. Tankbottoms. So this is that's $196 to do that. That is ridiculous. And create payable address. And so this basically makes an address. This deploys a contract, which gives you a direct address. And you know what? I wonder if this is like what. I wonder if you needed to do this before you do the project handle. So anyway, here's my project, and you can just see how clumsy a lot of this stuff is. For one thing, like this cog, there's that cog is only focused on doing the project reconfiguration. But anyway, I mean, you can see that there's a lot of tools. So what it does well is, here's a receptacle for people to give money. Here's what transactions are occurring. People get tokens. People can reclaim tokens, and then people can see what's going on. There's a lot of like small incremental touches, projects. So for example, Bleeding Edge. Bleeding Edge we redid this whole side panel for control. So we put things in tabs. We have owners of things. We have roles, so you can define different roles. Landing page design. So there's kind of breaking out tools into this box to keep it consistent with, like, when you went and created a project, you know, you were presented with all these, boxes and these side panels. A lot of attention was spent in terms of like being consistent about when do you have this, when do you have a scroll bar, when do you have a add something, and then it gives you a modal. Because there's a lot of inconsistencies that are annoying. Then there's these other apps that we're considering. So so that's so the project reconfiguration, and then tokens. There's whitelisting tokens. So in the wallet that created the project, you can see what other assets there are in that wallet. So we wanted to make a better way to share. And this is because we want this place here to show all the assets this project, including the project owner, may have. Also, we're redesigning this to store DAI because this is only ETH. There needs to be a way to see other types of stables. So this asset, you can see these assets here, but some of them should warrant being in this other area. And then for NFTs, you're going to want to maybe make a page where you lay out your NFTs like a gallery. Vesting, we have a vesting mechanism where you have reserved rate, and what you can do is you can have your reserved rate funnel into the MeowDAO wallet. So in this example, 65% of all of the 50% go into the DAO treasury, which is a sufficiently way to do it. Some projects distribute it, and some projects just evenly distribute it to distribute the tokens across a group of people. And that probably looks better for not looking like options. Or you could just reserve it and you keep it into the treasury. And then now the treasury has tokens, 37,000 tokens. And so you can go into this vesting contract and then assign individuals Meow or DAI or whatever. And then durations, 18 months. And then Cliff. And then you deposit it. And then there's a bunch of NFT stuff. So yeah, once you're creating a bunch of NFT assets, this workflow for this minter, you can download the configuration, we haven't done this yet, or you send it to a project. But we need a way to not be able to spam projects. A bunch of people, if you can randomly make NFT projects and then associate it with a project. So you need a way for projects to say, okay, I want to pay attention to messages or information from these minters, or I want this person to lay out something differently without having to go through a multi-sig. And that's another thing is Natasha's designing in Gnosis here, because just handling the wallet, signing transactions and going in between MetaMask and this, it'd be nice if you could just log in one place. Let's see. Log in one place and then have the multi-sig, which means that a bunch of information. So you can already see just with managing money, payouts, tokens, redemption. I mean, that's a lot of shit already, right? I'm sure all of you guys are glazing over and okay, but it's I mean, what's cool is that it's a tokenized community that's transparent, that's trustless, but as we talked about earlier, people contribute to Juicebox and then they're done, that's a big deal. That's a deal killer for us. There's no evidence that any tool out there has an attach rate to a community where they use it over and over again, as how they manage their funds, besides Gnosis Safe. But there's no tool that has tokens that is connected to liquidity pools, no less, having mechanisms of swap. So as I've shown, like there's this NFT tooling, which is one mechanism to bring in, and then there's a few things around investing, the NFT marketplace, and then building in Gnosis, and then building in voting. And given the market, like I think it's worth, just being thoughtful, because this is, already what you're looking at is like, well over like hundreds of thousands of lines of code, which like I wouldn't be surprised if it's approaching 1 million. I'm kind of tired of talking. Is there any questions? No questions?
So
no
is
one's
everybody,
probably, for sure, no one's
everybody
listening.
like comfortable with the using Rinkeby? Because you can go through these motions and kind of dig into all of the different configurations and stuff for your own thorough, familiarization without paying gas fees if you use Rinkeby. So if anybody doesn't know how to do that, I can, or various of us can help you do that and be able to set up your project without paying.
Do you have Rinkeby tokens?
Yeah, there's a couple faucets. I don't have a lot, but you can get 0.1 ETH a day. Hello?
At how much money with different types of configuration settings. There aren't. So you can academically kind of do all these things, but this is where like having real world experience and running projects, but like the vast majority of projects on Juicebox are under 10 ETH, period. So like it's um, you learn by doing with this stuff. Maybe.
I have a question on a specific use case around token.
Yeah.
So say the project is a nonprofit and all of the decision making is going to be done by the project owners. So how could you give me some examples of how tokens can be used in that type of example?
So there's no utility for the tokens, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So what you can do is let's see, you could launch a project, funding token, initial mint rate 0. That's it. There. That or 1. But that's, I mean, I don't know if you could probably just do like yeah, it's just weird. Maybe it needs, but I think you just do this, and then now it doesn't, it shouldn't care. 1 token per ETH. Okay, so it doesn't let you do fractions. You just go to rules. No, I think that's it. I think that's how you do it. Unless Felix.
I do not know. No, I'm actually not sure how to do that.
So is it possible to turn tokens completely off?
It's possible to make it this 1 per ETH, which but you could also just say what I would do at that point is I would just say that I'd just be very upfront about saying tokens have no utility. They're your receipt. They're your signal or your flex that you contributed to this project.
You could reserve at 100%, right, and just keep them all. That way, they would also basically.
Right. That's right.
Be used
that's actually that's a great example. So reserve. But no, I thought your reserve is 100. Okay, you can do 100%. Okay, discount is maxed at 20, I think. So you could do a reserve rate of 100%, and then it all gets allocated to the project owner. Yeah. That's the way to do it too.
Wouldn't you just pause token minting?
Excuse me.
Wouldn't you just pause token minting?
So I think pause. There's no pause token minting. There's pause payments. Maybe in the project.
The other thing, I mean, between funding cycles, you would just change the reserve rate.
Why would you? I mean, you just do 100%.
No, I'm saying if you wanted to pause, you could say, well, for the next funding cycle, you're going to put it up to 100. Then it's effectively paused, except that the treasury share gets bigger. And then that subsequent funding cycles, you can put it back. I think that's one way to get around that.
Let's see, our tools. Yeah, there's there's no pause token minting, so I don't know what you're saying.
No, I think I thought that was pause payments for a second.
So I would do 2 things, or one of 2 things. I would just give the tokens and be very clear in the pay button. So in your disclaimer that shows up here, be very clear to say these tokens are your flex or badge that you contribute to this project. There's no governance to speak of, and there's no plans on doing governance. And then there's no redemption, and just be upfront about that. But these tokens represent your contribution to this project. Thank you. And or reserve 100%, and that way tokens reserve 100%. Then there's no tokens going out to anybody. And you could then if you don't care about the tokens at all, then you could just make one token.
Okay, so it doesn't really matter either way. It's either the project owner reserves all the tokens, or you allow it to be like a badge of honor for the contributor.
Yeah, I mean, considering that there's no receipts except like a transaction history, like it's not the worst idea to like use it as a receipt for contributions.
And also, you mentioned something about an NFT gallery. Is that a current feature, or how do people usually link?
That's currently being worked on, and so what that is when you connect to you have to go to our site, but the wallet owner of the project NFT, you can add specific assets in that wallet, and in our front end designs, we have quite a bit of configuration to for the project owners to show the assets that are in their wallet, and then do set up a gallery. So so in our Juicebox at the WTF, so this is what it'll look like. So the feature set is in tracking assets, where you can show what different tokens you have. So explore projects, my projects, not Tankbottoms, but and then all assets, and then here it shows, and then you can specifically add assets, and so that the next iteration of this will have ERC 721, and then there'll be a preview page of just the NFTs with a little with a detail view, and then a larger layout gallery page that will have controls to make collections. Basically, how Gallery SO works. Gallery SO. Anyway, so that's not available right now. We're working on it, and there's this front end page, and then there's also a mechanism to create a landing page, and the landing page is the idea is to not only, so this treasury is an accounting thing. It'd be nice if project owners had like a landing page with sections about the team or the project or whatever they're doing. But more specifically, when you create a mint project, it'd be nice to have a mint page generated for you. So when you do an NFT creation, you can imagine you need a place to mint it. You'd want to see what recent mints occurred, and then if you had 10 of those going on, you'd want a way to view that. And then from a movement perspective or a platform perspective, it'd be nice to see all the different types of mints that are going on concurrently, and having them all organized in a way where people can search or browse by NFT. So that's currently being worked on too.
Got it. Thanks. And currently, if there's like additional supporting media, such as say like a YouTube video, how are people linking to that for more of like a storytelling aspect of their project?
Yeah. So you can put anything you want in this description. And so in this example, I put in like links in Markdown. And then so I would do it there.
Okay.
So I'm sorry, guys, but I have to get going. I was wondering if there's any other questions I can answer for anybody.
The fees that you paid were the first $70 fee was to initialize the treasury, was that right? And then the next one was to initialize the token contract. The $200.
I didn't pay for the token. The token contract that I saw had gas fees of $1,000. So something was like totally not kosher there.
Yeah.
But so so yeah, create project looks like it was $74. And then the set ENS was $15, which did not work. And then also if you decode input, I did write let's see, data Juicebox. Yeah, I did write Juicebox Tankbottoms. So it the order in which the string sorted was reversed, and then owner resolver. Oh, and then I redeployed a reconfiguration.
Okay, so a project can generally like expect to pay like 0.0 like 0.1 ETH or something, or maybe 0.2 ETH for both initializing a project and the token.
So this was 0.048. So so less than that, like half of what you just said.
Okay, like
yeah.
0.1 for both.
0.04. So like 0.1 is double.
The token under normal circumstances.
The token, I mean, I would have to look at like what the token, because like that was, I mean, the gas fees right now aren't that high, but like I have never seen that's like shocking. But that said, you know, the deployment let's see, it says issue. Let's see what it says now. $82 is what it says now.
Okay. Yeah. Sweet.
So yeah.
Right on. Yeah, my Discord decided to crash on me earlier when I was talking it, but anyway, yeah. Thanks for the
okay.
the walkthrough.
Thank you,
no problem. Yeah, no problem.
I have one more question if someone has time to stick around.
Yeah, sure.
So right now, if a funding cycle is going towards something specific, just for example, say like to build a greenhouse, so that's kind of like in trust that the money will go towards that. Has there any examples of someone like providing evidence or like a receipt of the funds actually going towards that?
Yeah, I mean that would be up to the project to establish their own governance framework and outline like the accountability of the folks who control the treasury, and so that's usually a multi-sig. And for something off-chain like a greenhouse, yeah, you'll want to have some kind of accounting system where there's receipts, but that's totally up to the organization, and that's like outside of the Juicebox app. If it's on-chain transactions, like you can say, you know, the treasury is going to put $5,000 into like the greenhouse operational budget, and that transaction will be on-chain. So that people would vote, or however the governance framework for that project is set up. Maybe the governance, you know, of that project doesn't even account for people voting. Like yours, you didn't even want to have a token, so you wouldn't necessarily be using the token to vote. So yeah, I mean, this is like a big topic of discussion. Like Tank was saying at the beginning of this call that anything that you write on the page, like you're saying, this is what I'm going to do with the money, is actually a verbal contract. So I still have some questions about legal accountability of like the claims that you're making to the use of the funds that are raised. But there's a pretty thorough legal framework that Tankbottoms is working up that will basically come with like the Move platform that will cover these sorts of details. But there's definitely a lot of gray area in the space left open to explore.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it feels like more of an operational cost for something off chain. Maybe that could be represented by like a separate wallet that funds would be contributed to each funding cycle. And if it's maybe like a one-off objective, that would kind of, that accountability would stay within the treasury team itself.
yeah, that's how I would do it, is have a separate operational wallet.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah,
Thank
so
y'all.
like an example, like what PSTAT does, for example, like because obviously the kind of the last mile of it, of like getting the money into people's hands, most of the time they don't have like an Ethereum address, so it's it's usually like up to PSTAT to like facilitate that um, that value transfer, and then to like do some reporting based on that and vetting. And so they like looked at things like their social media of the people that they're giving the money to, like if it's a volunteer group, kind of like vetting and making sure that they're like actually, they're doing something with the money that's what they said it was for. So there's still like that level, that layer of like auditing or verification.
Sweet. This has been really helpful. I appreciate it, everyone. The-
Yeah. And I know we were supposed to go through more of a real case scenario today, but happy actually that Tank jumped in, whether or not it maybe confused some people because we kind of sort of dove into some super technical things. But I think it gave like a good base for understanding, so that like next time if we do run through someone's use case, like Peter, maybe even run through yours, we can continue that conversation.
Yeah, I would love that.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks everyone.